For anyone who doesn't know, I love Nintendo. And the one Nintendo console I love the most is the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, also known as the SNES. And when I found out Nintendo was releasing a classic edition of this console, like they did with the NES, I was pumped. 21 classic games all on a junior-sized SNES was like a dream come true. It has now almost been 2 years since the SNES Classic launched, and there seems to be no N64 Classic in sight. So I thought I'd unbox and review all the games on this system, since it is still such a hot ticket item. So let's get right into it. As you can see, I bought this from GameStop, pre-owned. And pulling the console out of the box, you can tell it is sturdy and well made, and very faithful to its original console. Next is the power adapter, which plugs into a USB adapter, which thankfully comes in the box. Next up is the HDMI cable, which is a big deal. Getting to play all these retro games with HDMI is something I could have only dreamed of 2 years ago. And finally, we have the controller, which I will go into more detail to soon. Now, this is the SNES controller, or at least one of them. It is very nice and feels very faithful to the original controller. And the cool thing is that it has the same plug-in as a Wii Nunchuck or Wii Pro controller. So if you prefer a Wii Pro controller over the SNES Classic controller, feel free to plug it in. It still works. And the trigger buttons feel nice, all the face buttons feel nice, and the D-pad feels very faithful to the original. Now the one issue that everyone has with this console is the size of its wire. It is 2 feet longer than the NES Classic's controller wire, but still only a measly 4 feet. Not ideal from playing anywhere away from the TV. Thankfully, Nintendo does make up for this by including a second controller, great for the various 2-player games on this console. It has the same adapter as the first one, and so you can use another Wii Classic controller, making this bundle way more valuable than the NES Classic. Now, onto the console. As you can see, it looks just like the original SNES, but is tiny. It's the same length as the controller, and almost the same width too. In the back, there are cool studs to prevent the console from sliding, and conveniently placed HDMI and power ports. Coming to the front, there are fake controller ports that can be popped out to reveal the real thing. A great reference, making this a cool collector's item. On the top, once again, the power button and reset button feel great, and like the original, making for an all-around great replica of the legendary console. Now, as good as the outside may look, what really matters is all the games. Now, the SNES was home to some legendary classics, so I'll be going through all of them, showing some gameplay and giving my thoughts, letting you know which ones you should most definitely play, and which ones may not have aged so well on this console. First up, we have Contra 3: The Alien Wars. This is the third installment in the Contra series that started on the NES. These games are known for being very difficult, but very fun at that. I have beat this game, which is really not that impressive. It takes about 40 minutes and even less with a friend. Many have said this game did not age well, but good graphics and fun chaotic gameplay still made it a classic by today's standards. I would not recommend it as its starter game, but if you're looking for a good challenge, give it a try. Next up is Donkey Kong Country, a quote-unquote 3D platformer on the Super Nintendo. This game is beloved by fans, and for good reason. Going into this game, the only other DKC I had experienced was Returns on the 3DS, so I was pretty new to it. What I got was a great action platformer with interesting mechanics and funny characters. Now it's a little on the short side, but that's alright because you can play each level. Hidden in every level are collectibles of all sorts, ranging from golden letters to balloons. Now the only downside I had to this game was the graphics. They are pictures of 3D models, since that's all the Super Nintendo could show. But if you manage to look past the graphics, you will get a platformer that has not aged one bit. After that, we have the fan favorite RPG Earthbound, or Mother 2 as it's known in Japan. Now people love this game to death, and so does Nintendo. They waited a long time before re-releasing this on the Wii U, and now again on the SNES Classic. Going into games, you should never have a set mindset. But with this game, I did. I was expecting the RPG to end all RPGs, and what I got was not that. Now the story is great, and the characters and music are charming. I'm not going to deny that. But the battle system was slow and repetitive, making every encounter feel like a chore, When I play games like Final Fantasy and a certain other RPG on this console, I'm pumped for every battle, ready to give it my all. In this game, all I have to do is sit back and press auto fight. No strategy involved. Now, I'm not going to deny the genius behind this game, but if you want a great RPG with fun and strategic battle systems, try out the other RPGs on this console. F-Zero, the Nintendo game everyone knows that one Smash character from, but nothing else about. Now, F-Zero has a simple plot: drive fast and win. It's a lot like Super Mario Kart, but way more sped up. Now, this game has some cool features. You have 4 drivers to choose from, though we all know you're going to play as Captain Falcon, and your car can crash and brake. I would say I prefer this over Super Mario Kart, but neither are that good. I said it once, I'll say it again. 2D racing games have not aged well at all. It's hard to see where you are in perspective to turns and other cars, and the pixels can hurt your eyes. Not a great game, but one to play to see some of Nintendo's history. And if you want a great F-Zero game, check out F-Zero GX on the GameCube. Final Fantasy VI, or Final Fantasy III as it's known here in North America, is one of, if not the greatest RPG of all time. A great story, soundtrack, and art direction made for an all-around epic experience that deserves a full playthrough. I can't say much about this game that hasn't already been said, so just play it. You won't be disappointed. Kirby Superstar, a great collection of Kirby minigames and a remake of the first Kirby game in SNES graphics. This is a great game to start with on the SNES Classic. An easy game which you can just take your time through and enjoy. My favorite part of this game has to be the minigames though. They are fun and infinitely replayable, not to mention this game has unlockables. If you're an SNES newcomer or a fan of the Kirby series, play this game all the way through. It's a pretty fun experience. Next up, Kirby's Dream Course, which looks to be a Kirby golf game. How the hell did Chrono Trigger not make it on here? But seriously, this game has not aged well. The controls are heavy, and the game just is not fun. Not worth playing at all in my opinion. Mega Man X is a cool game. That's the best way to describe it. The original Mega Man games have infamously not aged well, but these games most definitely have. From the kicking soundtrack to the stellar combat and platforming, this is a must-play for Mega Man fans. I played this game only having played Mega Man 2 in the past, and man, I beat this game fast. This game is beatable in about an hour if you know what you're doing, but it took me about 3. Part of the Mega Man games are learning from mistakes, but the game is really forgiving about them, which I admire. Most definitely play this game on the SNES Classic, and if you don't have it, buy it on the newly released Mega Man X Legacy Collection. RPGs are not for everyone. Their tedious turn-based combat is loved and hated by many. But certain SNES RPG came out of nowhere and broke that mold. Secret of Mana is an absolute gem. The combat is intuitive and complex, and the characters are great. Although I felt bored sometimes, I powered through this game, and man was it worth it. Just the evolution of the characters alone was a good enough payoff for beating this game. I would not recommend this as a starter SNES RPG, but one you must play if you're a fan of the genre. And, once again, if you have no SNES Classic, you can play this game on the Collection of Mana for Nintendo Switch. Star Fox was a legendary game for its time. Using the Super FX chip and all of the SNES capabilities to run, this 3D space shooter was revolutionary. Nowadays, it's not so good. The graphics have aged terribly and the gameplay isn't amazing. Playable, but not amazing. The series truly started to shine on the N64 with Star Fox 64, but that is not what this console is based around. This game is for hardcore Nintendo fans and not really anyone else. Definitely a skipper. Okay, so I realized after halfway through this video I was way in over my head and thinking I could fit all the games into one video, so I'm splitting this into 2 parts. The next 11 games will be reviewed in the video I make after my Christmas special, which I hope all of you will enjoy. And let me know in the comments what your favorite SNES games are, or which ones you wish had been included on this classic console. As always, thank you so much for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe if you like this kind of content.